Okay, well, it is what it is. Anyway, now we're ready to go. Oh yeah, and why? Uh, so I thought Uncle was gonna be ready for shower time. It's not ready, so we get another half hour. Lego. Okay, Chapter 5: Adventures in Behavioral Neurology, or What Neurology Can Tell Us About Human Nature. Vilayanur Ramachandran, director of the Center for Brain and Cognition and distinguished professor with the Psychology Department and the Neurosciences program at the University of California, San Diego, the adjunct professor of biology at the Salk Institute, and co-author of Phantoms in the Brain, author of The Telltale Brain, and my personal recommendation, author of A Brief Tour of Human Consciousness. Alright, I kind of want to give Buru a chance to join us. And here we go. Sorry, Boru. Okay, I'm interested in all aspects of the human mind, including aspects of the mind that have been regarded as ineffable and mysterious. The way I approach these problems is to look at patients who have sustained injury to a small region in the brain, a discipline called behavioral neurology, or cognitive neuroscience these days. Let me tell you about the problem confronting us. The brain is a 1.5 kilogram mass of jelly, the consistency of tofu, and you can hold it in the palm of your hand, yet it can contemplate the vastness of space and time, the meaning of infinity, and the meaning of existence. It can ask questions about who am I? Where do I come from? Questions about love and beauty, aesthetics and art, and all these questions arise from this lump of jelly. This lump of jelly, bro. It is truly the greatest of mysteries. The question is, how does it come about? When you look at the structure of the brain, it's made up of neurons. Of course, everybody knows that these days there are 100 billion of these nerve cells. Just for you dumbasses that don't. Let's see whether we can get like a cool, yeah, like this, you know? Except they're packed in, but you won't be able to see them, so. Yeah. Here, this is cool. Boom. Okay. 100 billion neurons, okay? And then here's what they look like. Each one, there's 4 of them. That's a good image. There you go. Giving Steve still a chance to join us. Oh, look at that mess of neurons that you are. Jelly boy. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. Scientists map miles. He's here! Scientists map miles of wiring in a speck of mouse brain. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna start over for Steve. So this is chapter 5. Merhaba Boru. Adventures in Behavioral Neurology, or What Neurology Can Tell Us About Human Nature, by V.S. Ramachandran. Okay, so I'm interested in all aspects of the human mind, including aspects of the mind that have been regarded as ineffable and mysterious. The way I approach these problems is to look at patients who have sustained injury to a small region of the brain, in the brain, a discipline called behavioral neurology, or cognitive neuroscience these days. Let me tell you about the problem confronting us. The brain is a 1.5 kilogram mass of jelly, the consistency of tofu. And you can hold it. What'd I do with it? And you can hold it in the palm of your hand. and you can hold it in the palm of your hand, yet it can contemplate the vastness of space and time, the meaning of infinity, and the meaning of existence. It can ask questions about who am I? Where do I come from? Questions about love and beauty, aesthetics and art. And all these questions arise from this lump of jelly. It is truly the greatest of mysteries. The question is, how does it come about? When you look at the structure of the brain, it's made up of neurons. Of course, everybody knows that these days. There are 100 billion of these nerve cells. Each of these cells makes about 1,000 to 10,000 contacts with other neurons, each one. From this information, people have calculated that the number of possible brain states of permutations and combinations of brain activity exceeds the number of elementary particles in the universe, which is something we say about everything, I feel like, but whatever. The question is, how do you go about studying this organ? There are various ways of doing it. These days, brain imaging is very popular. You make the person perform some task, engage in conversation, or think about love, for that matter, or something like that, or imagine the color red. What part of the brain lights up? That gives you some confidence in saying that that region of the brain is involved in mediating that function. I'm sort of simplifying it, but something along those lines. Hey, brain, think about love. Oh, guys, look, there's this activity. Actually, where is there cortical activity for love? So I can point it out without taking it apart again. Love, brain imaging, cortex. Here we go. Areas of the brain switched off by love. See, it's all inside, you see. Oh, that's just sending the dopamine pathways. That's just the dopaminergic pathways. All right, areas of the brain switched off by love. So we're looking at a brain, and we're like, oh, this part in the frontal parietal is inactivated by love. This part in the sort of the temporal parietal junction, the TPJ here. Oh, this part in the temporal lobe. Okay. Huh. So, all right, well, that's terrible because we want things that are active with love. But I think a lot of cortical stuff probably gets turned off in love, huh? Ah. Oh, this is looking inside number one here, the amygdala. Anyway, let's suppose that these were not areas switched off by love, but instead active in love. You go, oh, so it must be these areas that are involved in, and it's hard to come up with the right terms. He used mediating. I worship knowledge. That knowledge can be false or unnecessary, but that needs more knowledge to confirm. So I love knowledge. And I agree with you, Steve. Absolutely, all knowledge can be false and needs confirmation. And hopefully, we're just getting closer and closer to more and more usable truths. So the question is, how do you go about studying this organ? There are various ways of doing it. These days, brain imaging is very popular. You make the person perform some task, engage in conversation, or think about love for that matter, or something like that, or imagine the color red. What part of the brain lights up? That gives you some confidence in saying that that region of the brain is involved in mediating that function. I'm sort of simplifying it, but something along those lines. Then there is recording from single cells, where you put an electrode through the brain, eavesdrop on the activity of individual neurons, and find out what the neuron is responsive to in the external world. There are dozens of such approaches, and our approach is behavioral neurology combined with brain imaging. Behavioral neurology has a long history going back about 150 years, a venerable tradition going back to Charcot. Even Freud was a behavioral neurologist. We usually think of him as a psychologist, but he was also a neurologist. In fact, he began his career as a neurologist, comparable in stature with Charcot, Hewling Jackson, and Kurt Goldstein. I haven't heard of any of those names, but I guess they're all big deals. What they did is Charcot Gage's doctor? Who? No, sorry, it was an H. Gage's doctor was an H. But I want to remember. I want to know what that was yesterday. It was like Herman C. Oops. Doctor. Edward H. Williams found him, but that wasn't his. That wasn't the guy who was known for studying, was it? Henry Jacob Bigelow, maybe. A lot of H guys. Alright, whatever. Okay, even Freud was a behavioral neurologist. We talked about Charcot, Hewling Jackson, and Kurt Goldstein. What they did was look at patients with sustained injury to a very small region of the brain. And this is what we do as well in our lab. What you get is not a blunting of all your mental capacities or across the board reduction of your mental ability. What you get often is a highly selective loss of one specific function, other functions being preserved relatively intact. This gives you some confidence in saying that that region of the brain is specialized in dealing with that function. It doesn't have to be a lesion, it can be genetic change. It can be a genetic change. One of the phenomena that we studied, for example, is synesthesia, the merging of the senses, which I'll talk about in a minute, where there has been a genetic glitch. It runs in families in whom some gene or genes cause people to hear colors and taste sounds. They've got their senses muddled up. We've been studying this phenomenon. In general, we look at curious phenomena, syndromes that have been known for ages, maybe 100 years, 50 years, that people have brushed under the carpet because they were regarded as anomalies, to use Thomas Kuhn's phrase. What do you make of somebody who says, I see 5 is red, 6 is blue, 7 is green, F sharp is indigo? It doesn't make any sense. And when you see this in science, the tendency among most scientists, most of my colleagues at any rate, is to brush it under the carpet and pretend it doesn't exist, to deny it. What we do is to go and rescue these phenomena from oblivion, studying them intensively in the laboratory. 9 out of 10 times, it's a wild goose chase. But every now and then, you hit the jackpot and you discover something really interesting and important. This is what happened with synesthesia. Another example, which maybe I'll begin with, is one most people have heard of. Our work on phantom limbs and mirrors, which I'll touch on in a minute. One of the peculiar syndromes that we have studied recently is apotemnophilia. Apotemnophilia. It's in fact so uncommon that many neurologists and many psychiatrists have not heard of it. So I don't have to feel bad for not having heard of it. Wait, let's see if we can figure out what it means. So, potemno. So not something and then like affinity for. Potemno. Potem. The loving of having no status. I have no idea. Okay, it's not that. It's in fact so uncommon that many neurologists and many psychiatrists have not heard of it. It's in a sense a converse of phantom limbs. In a phantom limb patient, an arm is amputated But the patient continues to vividly feel the presence of that arm. I can feel it. It's like I still have my arm. I can feel it. I can feel it as much as I can feel this one, but it's not here. So we call it a phantom limb. In apotemnophilia, you are dealing with a perfectly healthy, normal individual, not mentally disturbed. Oh, but they're like, that's not my arm. That's what I'm going to guess. Oh, no, but I don't get what the philia would be. In apotemnophilia, you are dealing with a perfectly healthy, normal individual, not mentally disturbed in any way, not psychotic, not emotionally disturbed, often holding a job, and as a family. We saw a patient recently who was a prominent dean of an engineering school, and soon after he retired, he came out and said he wants his left arm amputated above the elbow. Ha, ha, ha. That's hilarious. So he was feeling like this, or no, this wasn't his. And so he's like, all right, this is mine, so just amputate here, please. It's the reason for our interest in taste. Evolution, and then some programming during the lifetime. For instance, we like, let's say that you like women. You're gonna tend to like women with fuller, longer hair, because over the course of our evolution, hair has been a pretty an easy enough, simple enough indicator of health. So that's why long hair is preferred in men and in women, even though because of the culture, short hair is kind of preferred in men. That's why I'm trying to rock both. Let them know I'm healthy and professional. Hip to waist ratio. You know, can she birth my baby? We like blue because the sky was blue and blah blah. We like purple. Interestingly, a lot of people, it's my favorite color, and because it's so exotic, because we didn't really evolve with purple. Yeah. So the reason tends to be survival, or learning from the community. So if the community says this is good, well, by social proof, you better learn that is good. Otherwise, you're gonna get kicked out of the community, bro. All right, there's a quick answer. Oh, had I already read this? Because I have something underlined. Okay, but no, we're not there yet. So we're talking about this prominent dean, and he kept it a secret. And then, after he retired, he came out and said he wants his left arm amputated above the elbow. Here's a perfectly normal guy who has been living a normal life in society and interacting with people. He's never told anybody that he harbored this secret desire, intense desire, to have his arm amputated ever since early childhood. And he never came out and told people about it for fear that they might think he was crazy. He came to see us recently and we tried to figure out what was going on in his brain. And by the way, this disorder is not rare. There are websites devoted to it. About 1/3 of them go on to actually get it amputated. Not in this country because it's not legal, but they go to Mexico or somewhere else and get it amputated. But here is something staring you in the face, an extraordinary syndrome, utterly mysterious, where a person wants his normal limb removed. Why does this happen? There are all kinds of crazy theories about it, including Freudian theories. One theory asserts, for example, that it's an attention-seeking behavior. For me, that's mounting. This chap wants attention, so he asks you to remove his arm. It doesn't make any sense. Why does he not want his nose removed, or ear removed, or something less drastic? Why an arm? It seems a little bit too drastic for seeking attention. The second thing that struck us is that the guy would often take a felt pen and draw a very precise irregular line around his arm or leg and say, I want it removed exactly that way. I don't want you removing too little of it or too much of it. It would feel wrong. I want you to amputate exactly on that line. So he'd be like, I want you to, right? Yeah, that's not really my arm. That is probably like right here. Yeah, right, and then right there. Yeah. And then definitely don't cut that part off because that I want. All right, Doc. Can you just cut it just above this line? Whatever. And you could test him after a year. It is the same wiggly line, which he couldn't have memorized. And this suggests already that this is something physiological and not something psychological that he is making up. Another theory that is even more absurd. Oh, so we've only covered one theory, right? Okay. Another theory that is even more absurd, found in some papers, and again, it's also a Freudian theory, excuse me, is that the guy wants a big stump because it resembles a giant penis. Sort of wish fulfillment. This again is ridiculous, complete nonsense, of course. The question is, why does it actually happen? What we were struck by the way, this is what I underlined whenever I picked up this book. It must have been over 10 years ago. What we were struck by was that there are certain syndromes where the patient has a right hemisphere stroke in the right parietal cortex. Okay? On this one, it's better because here, look at this. So here we have this blue-gray. This blue-gray is the parietal cortex, okay? And the right parietal cortex. Let's see what we've got here, big bro. Let's see. That's taste input. It's probably can't read it. Anyway, so we're gonna go up. Where is arm? Ah, here it is, arm. So this is the part of the somatosensory strip, the darker part. This is the part of it that has the arm feelings. Okay. Of the opposite side. So it's his left arm, which is why it was a stroke on the right somatosensory cortex up here in the parietal lobe. Because it was his left arm. Yeah. So, he could have gotten hit over the head. He didn't. It was a stroke, but so what we were struck by was that there are certain syndromes where the patient has a right hemisphere stroke in the right parietal cortex. The patient then starts denying that the left arm belongs to him. He says, "Doctor, this arm." He'll often point to it with his right arm, rather than going like this, I guess. He'll point to it with his right arm. "Doctor, this arm." He'll often point to it with his right arm. "This arm belongs to my mother." Here's a person who is perfectly coherent, intelligent, can discuss politics with you, can discuss mathematics with you, can play chess with you, asserting that his left arm doesn't belong to him. This is different. Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about apotemnophilia. We are not. This is different from apotemnophilia. In apotemnophilia, the patient says, okay, this arm is mine, but I don't want it. I want it removed. I see. But there are similarities. There's an overlap. So we suggested that maybe there's something wrong with his body image in the right hemisphere, which alienates the left arm, or the right arm for that matter, from the rest of the person's body. And the sense of alienation leads to the person saying, I don't want it. Have it removed. More specifically, messages from the arm and the skin throughout the body, in fact, go to the parietal lobe to a structure, the postcentral gyrus. This is the postcentral gyrus. because there's this line here. A gyrus is like a no, sorry. This is the central sulcus, which is a groove. Here is the precentral gyrus, which also has a body map, and it's for the motor stuff. Okay. And then here on the post-central gyrus, so behind the central sulcus, which is the groove between them, on the post-central gyrus, you have the sensory stuff. More specifically, messages from the arm and the skin throughout the body, in fact, go to the parietal lobe to a structure, the post-central gyrus. There's a big furrow or cleft right down the middle of the brain called the central sulcus. Just behind the sulcus, there is a vertical narrow strip of cortex where there's a complete map of your body's surface. Every point of your body's surface is represented in a specific point on the cortex, and there's a complete map called the Penfield map. That's where touch sensations and, behind it, joint sensations and muscle sensations are all represented in this somatosensory map. The first thing Paul McGough, Dave Brang, and I did was an MEG recording. MEG, I guess magnetic encephalography. MEG is a functional brain imaging technique to map out the body of these people. Normal people have a complete point-by-point map on the surface of this strip of cortex. We said, well, maybe this guy has a hole in that region corresponding to the arm he wants removed, because it feels alien. But what we found is that there are no holes. It's a completely normal map, so we were disappointed. Then, what we found was that there's another region behind it called the superior parietal lobule. Superior parietal lobule. So I guess we're talking about this now. Oh, superior parietal. I think we're talking about like this here. Parietal lobule. I think like here maybe. Not sure. Yeah. Not quite. So more like here. And it says here sensory interpretation. Uh-huh. And it goes over both sides, but for the left side of the body, then it's gonna be here on the right side. Oh, and it goes back like this. It's like this. This region actually constructs your body image. When I close my eyes, I have a vivid sense of my different body parts. Some parts are more vivid than others, and this comes mainly from joint and muscle sense, partly from my vestibular sense, saying that I'm standing erect, that my head is not tilted, and partly that when I open my eyes, I confirm it with vision. So there's a convergence of signals from vision, touch, proprioception, vestibular sense, vision, all of that, helping you construct a vivid internal picture of your own body called the body image. It is not explanatory to say that this part of the brain interprets something and that part does that. It is somewhat explanatory though, right? Because if you're like, oh, how does this feeling happen? Oh, well, neural activity here. Yeah. And the brain can add and multiply, and there are physical components actually doing it. Let me send a thinking. Yeah. And for us, um, it's axons, for example. So this region actually constructs your body image. When I close my eyes, I have a, oh, we blah, blah. So there's a convergence of signals from vision, touch, proprioception, vestibular sense, vision, all of that helping you construct a vivid internal picture of your own body called the body image. That that gets partial input from the map I was telling you about, namely the touch map, the map for joints and muscle sense. It gets input from vision. All of it is converging to create a body image. That map, we found, does not have the representation of the arm that the patient wants to get rid of. You don't see this in every patient, and some of the malfunction may be in the zones that the body image map subsequently projects to. Let me read that again. All of it is converging to create a body image. That map, we found, does not have the representation of the arm that the patient wants to get rid of. You don't see like these neurons connected with these to do something. Yeah. Or let me say one thing. You and I, being brains, are not going to intuitively understand how we, as brains, do what we do. And that's because we didn't evolve to intuitively understand it. So it's really a choice. I mean, like people who are working on quantum mechanics or anything that's hard, it's kind of a choice. Do I like accept it, or do I and you know try to make it make sense to myself, or do I reject it, or you know be skeptical because it isn't making sense to me? Normally, not normally. Uh, when it comes to simple things, the fact that something doesn't make sense to you can be a good, smart heuristic and indicator that the thing is wrong. But that's for simple things that we evolved to be able to understand. Understanding how all of our experience is neuronal is not something that we were prepared to understand. It hasn't even been really a generation since that image became clear. And you're going to need a few thousand, or a few hundred at least, a few thousand, and environmental pressures to give us that ability. So you and I aren't going to have that ability. Yeah. So it will be counterintuitive and it will be unsatisfying, the answers. Much like your other question about why am I me and not him? You may never feel convinced with any of the answers that we have or with any of the answers we could have. But that's not because of the answers. That's because of our own interpretive mechanisms. So our hypothesis was the signals arrive in S1, touch, and S2, joint and muscle sense. So our hypothesis was the signals arrive in S1, touch, and S2, joint and muscle sense. All the sensory signals arrive here and they're all normal and they're received in the brain, but when the signal gets sent to the body image center in the superior parietal lobule in the right hemisphere, there is no place in the brain to receive that signal, and therefore this creates a tremendous clash and discrepancy, and the brain abhors discrepancies. The discrepancy signal is then sent to the amygdala, the limbic structure. The discrepancy signal is then sent to the amygdala. The limbic structure produces an aversion to the arm, and the patient says, I want the arm removed. It feels intrusive. He uses words like intrusive over present. So I want it removed. Um, uh, I exist because I want to make a comment about the question, but nothing is springing to mind. What do I do for a living? Isn't that funny how natural that is for a question? What do you do? How do you spend your days in order to be able to exist? In order to be able to live, what do you do with your time? And I'll tell you this because I'm reinterpreting your question. Or no, I'm not reinterpreting your question because there's an implication like, well, in order to live, you're gonna need to get money and approval from society in order to live. You're gonna need a post that other people value what you're doing and are willing to pay you right now for what you're doing. And nobody is willing to pay me right now for what I'm doing. But to avoid dying, to avoid suicide, I'm doing this. So I know you mean money, but also that was like a profound and good response that I just gave. So I do nothing for money. I do this for a living. And maybe this can get money. And then I would just give it to my parents to, and, maybe use it to be able to continue working on this. But I'm pretty committed to this and have been um, for a couple of decades now, really. Yeah, academician. Yeah, I like philosopher because, like you, I love knowledge and trying to do something with it. So, philosopher's good, or academician, whatever floats your boat, Boru. All right, so where were we? Here's a bizarre psych. Okay, very good. So, that is, I'm impressed. I am glad that we are forming this relationship. I am twice your age, but don't feel it. I'd also, if you get me drunk enough, I'd be like, oh yeah, probably about 20, 21, I think. Anyway, um, here's a bizarre psychological syndrome. The person wants his arm removed. Discard the Freudian idea that he wants a big giant stump or that he wants attention and things like that, and you come up with a precise circuit diagram of what's going on. Let's see that circuit diagram. Apotemnophilia diagram. So here it's called body image dysphoria. We have our right parietal superior lobule. Well, anyway, here's the pathway. Right parietal superior, right frontal mid orbital. Okay, so orbitals like your eye bones. Left frontal inferior. Try. Let's try. Left frontal inferior. Try. Trigeminal? No. Oh, triangular part. Okay. We have the right cuneus, which is just below the parietal superior. You have the right occipital superior, the right putamen, the left temporal mid, the right caudate, the right paracentral lobule. So it's specific part of the left inferior frontal gyrus. The left inferior frontal gyrus. So it's going like this, and it's divided into three parts: the opercular part, the triangular part, and the orbital part. Okay, interesting. Um, so, and you come up with a precise circuit diagram. Oh, shit. I have been waiting for this call for a long time. Salut!
Ça va?
Oui, bah, maintenant ça va mieux, hein?
J'ai failli oublier de t'appeler.
Ah ouais, tu m'étonnes. Alors, est-ce que je peux te rappeler dans
Ouais.
10 minutes?
Ouais, vas-y, pas de souci.
Ok, très bien.
Tout de suite.
All right, I'm gonna call her in 10 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes. Hey, oh no, I can't. Okay, whatever. 11:40. Okay. Okay, okay, all right, hurry up. Let's go, bro. Okay, oh, what'd you say? I'm 19, trying to find ways to make money. Just ask that for inspiration. Oh, and yeah, I mean, I don't have advice for that. Um, except if you can, try to pursue your passion. But not everyone is as privileged as me, dog. So, and if you don't have ADHD or anything, then be sure to just pursue your passion alongside it, because bro, you heard what we were reading about in the affective forecasting. And by the way, you're at such a great age to learn these things and to not make the same mistakes as every other human that didn't learn these things at 19. Um, in fact, uh, tell me that you pulled up the affective forecasting page on the Decision Lab website. Tell me that, bro. Or do it now and then tell me that. Yeah. Now. Now, big bro. Affective forecasting, the Decision Lab. No, well, close. Affective, so it's an A at the beginning instead of E. Affective forecasting, Decision Lab. Confirm. All right. We tested this because it is not enough to come up with a theory. How do we test it? It turns out that if I poke anybody with a needle, that pain sensation goes to the sensory pain region in the brain. Oh, probably in the thalamus and the cortex, and then it goes to the amygdala. The amygdala alerts you to the pain and you say, ow, right? Um, right? And then it goes down to the anterior cingulate that feels the agony of the pain. There's a cascade of events. There's a sensation of pain, and then the agony of pain, and then messages go down the autonomic nervous system and make you start sweating, preparing for action, fleeing, fighting, or whatever the required action is. So if you poke somebody with a needle, this whole cascade of events is set in motion. You can measure the skin resistance, which measures the sweating. You start sweating when poked. Now, when I poked him with a little pencil above the line where he wanted his arm to be amputated, nothing happened. Just a little gentle pencil prick. It's not a painful stimulus. Oh, it's not weird that nothing happened. Nothing happened. Just a little gentle pencil prick. It's not a painful stimulus. Not much happened. There's no galvanic skin response. There's no arousal. But if you touch him below the line where he wants the amputation, there's a huge, big galvanic skin response. You can actually measure the aversion physiologically, not just rely on the subject to report. There's no way you can fake the galvanic skin response. That's the, what did he say, the conductance? The skin resistance. All right, we're gonna go. There's no way you can fake the galvanic skin response. It's the basis of all lie detector tests. Now, to see what happens next, we will. Sorry, I'm live. I'm ending it. To see what happens next, stay tuned. Steve, can you confirm that you have pulled up the affective forecasting page on the Decision Lab website? It should look like this. Then read it, because we are really bad at figuring out how we will feel in the future and what actions will bring us happiness and blah 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 blah. So so confirm that, and then gule boru. I did. You mean you have it up and you are going to try to look at it this week, correct? Very good. See